everyone. Can someone, before I even get started saying hello, just confirm if they can hear me? Just because I've had my drivers updated and they like to be a bit temperamental when they're updated. So if someone can at least let me know if my sound is working, I would very much appreciate it. And perfect, thank you for that. Okay, so hello everyone. Now that we know my sound is definitely working, because like I say, likes to play up on me. It's very strange tonight because usually I'm staring at someone and at the minute I'm talking to myself, or at least it feels that way. So if anyone joins, I'd be really grateful if you do sort of join in and stuff, because it does sort of feel a bit weird when you're just talking into a screen, I guess, with no sort of communication back. Also, if anyone wants to ask any questions at any point, feel free to just sort of chime in and ask away, and I'll try and get back to them as quick as I can. Not fussy what you ask me, you can ask me anything, I'm pretty open. I mean, I grill most people, so I feel like I've got to be as open as what I grill people on, and then obviously and then go and put little clips of embarrassing moments, I guess, on my Insta. So I sort of got to expect the same sort of courtesy back towards me, I guess. We're on 78 followers as well, actually, which I'm quite surprised about. So thank you to anyone who has been following. The goal at the minute is to get to 100. I'm hoping to have quite a few people back next week. I'm just waiting on confirmation for that, so that should be pretty badass to have like about 6 people all talking about IBD at once. At some point I'll probably look into doing a giveaway, which is the first I'm mentioning it now, but it'll probably be like once we've got a certain number of following and blah blah blah. So that's something that's being worked on as well, that I haven't announced on my Insta. If you haven't already followed and you've stumbled upon the stream, I'd really appreciate it if you do follow. I am also on Instagram as well, like all my tags and everything at the bottom of the screen. So we'll get started, and like I say, if anyone wants to jump out at any point and ask away, please, the more people are talking, the less weird this will feel for me talking to a screen alone. So obviously I'm Sam of RT66Sam. I do get asked quite a lot because it looks like a bit of a weird name, I guess, because I've not got like, I don't know, like gaming Crohns warrior or something. The name is actually from so my day-to-day job, my hair salon has got a bit of a Route 66 theme, and RT66Sam has been my gamer tag for the last, I don't know, 5 and a bit years. I've had the salon about 5.5 years now, so I'm a hairdresser in day-to-day life, in real life and not on a stream. And yeah, so the name sort of come from that because I was gaming, and obviously I've only been streaming about probably 2.5 months now. So the gamer tag was already in place beforehand, and I just sort of rolled with it because I didn't actually think that when I started streaming I'd even get anywhere. I thought, oh, I'll probably stream once or twice, get laughed at, and that'll be the end of that, and it'll just move on with my life. But obviously it has sort of gone somewhere, so the tag's sort of stuck now. So if anyone wonders why, it's just random letters, numbers, and then my name. That is why. I am going to talk a little bit. I'm going to back all the way up. I'll be 29 this year. But I'm going to back up to obviously when I was younger, because there is a few other health issues that I've probably not really ever spoken about that I have that might be beneficial to some people out there. I don't know. It's worth mentioning. If anyone wants me to clarify anything about that, then I will go through it. But basically, as a kid, I've always been a bit of a shy, anxious, bit of a nerd sort of thing. So that's always been quite, I don't know, my personality. And then around the age of about 19, I got hit with a bad spell of depression. It was like my first ever one. I was in a job where looking back now, after having like a few jobs, it makes me realise that I probably was in quite a toxic environment. But when you're quite young, you don't really know any different. I guess you don't have anything to go off. So I've been in hairdressers since the age of 13 as a Saturday kid. Left school, went straight into full-time work on an apprenticeship at 16. Moved to the second salon at 18, and then things started to sort of go downhill from there. Looking back, my bosses were like, they were drinking on the job, asking you to go and buy booze on their lunch break, and then going and cutting hair. And yeah, they were very toxic, not very nice people, and I sort of didn't really realise everything going downhill. It just sort of seemed to... There was quite a few things going on in my life at that point, and my work environment was probably one of the main factors. I'd also had quite a bad car accident, and I'd probably say even to this day I was getting a bit of like PTSD. I get, you know, almost like where you'd picture a flashback of like the car coming at you. So I still sometimes get that now. So yeah, so basically there's quite a few different things going on, and I remember the one night we were late, I took the rubbish out to like one of these big bins round the back, looking up at the sky, and it's quite a beautiful night, to be fair. It's like full of stars, and I just remember thinking, is this all there is to life, really? Which is quite a weird thing for a 19-year-old to be thinking. And I remember having thoughts of like driving to work and almost thinking I just want to turn the wheel into like nowhere. And it's quite a strange feeling, especially now when I look back on those emotions. There wasn't really anything overly that dramatic going on. It was just like a lot of things eating away at me, I guess. And went home and sort of said to my mum, I think I might have depression, but I don't really know. But obviously I don't think these are normal thoughts. Like, almost just felt nothing inside, and when I did, it was quite negative, I guess. And went to the doctors, and one of the old guys, they'd sort of asked him to come back out of retirement. And basically, you know, when you think, oh no, it's an old guy, he's like proper old school, young girl gonna go, oh, I think I've got depression, he's gonna go, oh, go away. And he was so nice. He was like, look, it happens, we all have a rough spell, let's try you on some antidepressants, sign you up for counselling, and while you're waiting, and we'll just see how you get on and take it from there. And basically I did end up in counselling. I found out actually that I thought it was depression that was the problem, but they explained to me I was actually just quite an anxious person, and the more anxious I sort of got, the more ate up and stressed out I'd get, and then eventually I'd work myself up into such a mess, and I'd start to just feel like really depressed and sad and what have you. I do know now, but at the time I didn't, that I do actually have a generalised anxiety disorder. So what that means is I'm more prone to getting anxious than most person. I am like a worrier and stuff, so I will go back a little bit more to that later on. But I just wanted people to know that I do have a history of it, so when I talk to people about mental health aspects, that I have been there and got the t-shirt, I guess. Just to interrupt, I just want to say hello to everyone who's saying hi, who's joining, by the way. Thank you so much for joining, because I really don't want to be talking to myself tonight. Yeah, so basically, at my lowest, like I say, I was thinking about like turning the wheel on the car, and I'm going to admit this on a stream. There was times when I would self-harm, and I've never really ever admitted that to anyone other than maybe one or two people a lot longer after, because I think there's a lot of stigma around if you do it, you're attention seeking. And I did eventually admit to my counsellor that I had done it, and it's quite worrying because I was actually doing it in my groin, so no one would actually find it, and that's quite an actual dangerous place to do it, and I didn't realise at the time. And basically, yeah, so I was doing it in such a, I have still got very faint lines. It wasn't deep, it was just sort of like, I don't know, if anyone's ever had depression on the chat, it's almost like you feel like you deserve to be hurt, like you're a danger to yourself, not to other people. You just think that you just utter crap, you deserve to feel pain, you deserve to feel nothing. Yeah, and basically I admitted that I'd done it and that I was ashamed of it, and it was a rare thing, but it had happened a few times, because obviously they will ask you, and like plans to end lives and stuff like that. And it really makes me angry sometimes when people say about self-harm being, I don't know, an attention-seeking thing, because my worry is that the people that are the ones you should be worrying about are probably hiding it like I was. I wasn't walking around with like scars down my wrists, and like it was in a location that I'd gone and planned out, thinking unless I go to a swimming pool, and even then it's going to be in such a bikini line location, there's no way you can. And I didn't have a partner at the time, so it's quite scary how much you will plan this thing out if you're serious. And it's important that people do need to talk about it. And yeah, eventually one day I don't know, just something just sort of happened where I just thought, this is going to be the rest of your life if you let it, and you're so young, what the hell is wrong with you? You've not really got anything to overly feel bad about. You need to sort yourself out. And I told my parents, I literally cannot do this job anymore, it's just too much. And it's one of the only jobs I've ever walked out of and not had another job to go to. I've always been sensible and had something else lined up. And the day that I handed my notice in and watching their faces so shocked to think like, oh shit, this girl's like going, we had no idea and we don't want to lose her. And it was just so amazing. To this day I can still feel how free I felt leaving it, even though I had nothing else to go to. They actually tried to put the poison down with me trying to get future jobs. They was really nice when I left, saying they'd give me a reference, and thankfully the next people who hired me did say, when we asked for a reference, she was like, I think they were very bitter about losing you, because they wouldn't be very good about answering questions. So I do know, because I did struggle to get a job after, and it was crazy. And thankfully someone had a brain to realise that these people were putting a bit of poison down, I guess. And yeah, they took a chance on me, and obviously I've not struggled to get a job since. So not very nice people. In fact, I was very tempted when I opened my own business to put a flyer through their doors, to be honest, just go, oh, by the way. But yeah, I'm just going to read some of these questions quickly. Yeah, so basically, in terms of the mental health, I will come back to it again in a bit, but especially if you know it's an issue for you, it's very important to constantly check in with yourself to see where you're at. I can't stress that enough. You need to be on it and treat it like, right, I'm coming down with a cold, let's get the Lucozade down and let's get the top. You have to be on it, because the minute you go too far down that hole, it's so hard to get back out of. Hello to the lady who's just joined. Yeah, so basically, after I sort of kicked myself up the bum and started sorting myself out and removing the toxic sort of stuff out of my life, I was having like a great time. I'd like gone through it. Basically, I'd sort of been working up the hairdressing sort of ladder to get to like quite a high end sort of salon that was like hiring a lot of people basically. And when I was about 11, I'd also been diagnosed with panic attacks. So yeah, so I'd sort of been told at 11 I was having panic attacks. I had to see a psychiatrist as well at 11, by the way. And then, like I say, fast forwarded to 19, and then they've gone, right, let's go and send you off. They're probably thinking, oh God, this girl's definitely a bit of, like, I don't know, loopy or whatever, let's get her some help. and I'd go through fads where they wouldn't really happen at all, and then all of a sudden I could have like a few in one day, but it'd be really random, and then my mum would be like, what are you panicking over? What are you panicking over? And I'd be like, I don't know, nothing. I just sat there. I don't know. The one day I remember sitting there, and I'd got braces on at the time, and I was brushing my hair thinking, oh, what colour should I have in my braces next time? And my heart went, and this one lasted about half hour. I couldn't get it to stop. And like once again my mum's like, oh, what are you panicking over? And I'm like, I don't know, I just wanted to know what colour braces to have next. Anyway, basically this went on and off, like I say, from the age of 11, and I'd been to the hospital a few times in the end, because like obviously a panic attack that's lasting like half hour does start to stress you out. Obviously, well, most people get panicked within the first like minute of a panic attack, hence the word name, panic attack. But for me it was like, it'll go in a minute, I'll do all my usual coping mechanisms, it'll go, whatever. Totally laid back about this panic attack. And I was 22 working in this high-end salon, and just finished cutting this lady, started blow drying her hair, and felt this like what can only be described as a clenching around my heart, very painful. And me being a workaholic, even when I was working for other people, was like, right, let's power through. It feels a bit uncomfortable, it'll go in a minute. And as I took the next section and pulled my arm, it was literally crushing my chest, and I'm like, this, I can't function, this is a lot of weirdness going on right now. And basically went in the back, and thankfully one of the girls I worked with was my old boss at another salon, who'd ended up following to this salon. She was like my manager somewhere else, and I went in the back and she was like, are you okay, you look so ill. And I was like, I don't know what's wrong, but my heart is racing and it's like clenching. And straight away she was like, sit down, and someone was like, there's a client out there. And thankfully, being as she knew me, she was like, if Sam says she's ill, she's ill. Move out the way, let her sit down, I'll go and finish that lady, and just don't leave her, just keep an eye on her, she looks really bad. And I was so grateful that, like I say, that she was there. Anyway, she finished blow drying and come back to say basically like, oh, she just needs a cut finishing. And the one girl was like, she literally won't stop shaking, and the girl who used to work with me just touched me and she was like, she's not shaking, that's her heart going that fast that you can see her physically like doing that. And she was like, she's not shaking at all, her heart's going so fast it just looks like she's shaking. And she was like, call your parents, because I don't think it's safe for you to drive, and just we'll take it from there. And thankfully she went and finished the cut off. Rang my mum, and she was like, have you done this, have you done that, have you done all your usual techniques? I was like, yeah, I've literally done them all like 2-3 times now, nothing's working. And at this point I think it had been about half hour, 45 minutes, and I was like, Mum, this one's they've never ever been painful, but this one is painful, I promise you it's painful, I don't feel safe to drive, can you come and pick me up? And it was about a 45-minute drive, maybe an hour in rush hour, to be fair. Anyway, basically my dad come with her so he could drive my car back, and I got in the car with my mum, and he's like, I'm going to go to the gym, but promise me you're going to go to A&E and have it looked at. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And very naughtily said to my mum, look, I'm not going again, all they do is, can you lift your left arm, any pain, you're not having a heart attack, go home. And then we just wasted 4 hours in A&E, and I got to be up for work the next day. I was like, it's 8, I've finished work, it's 8 o'clock, I'm starving, I probably just need food, I need to chill out, and then I'll be fine. And stupidly I asked her to go to McDonald's, pick me up a burger, and I had a Coke, even though my heart was racing. And we got home, and by this point it had been about 2 hours, and I was like, I think I'm going to go for a shower. And she was like, no, you're not going for a shower, you're sitting right here. And I was like, oh, but I'm uncomfortable, my waistband on my trousers, whatever. And she was like, no, you're not going anywhere, just take your trousers off, there's no one in the house, put a blanket on your legs. So I'm sat in my work t-shirt and a blanket and my pants basically, and I was like, I'm just going to ring 111, see if they can come up with any other techniques then, because it's like literally this is the longest it's ever been going for. And basically, like, literally no sooner I rang 111, they were like, are you having chest pain? I was like, yeah. Went through it all, and I was like, what meds are you on, blah blah blah, and can you get them ready? And I was like, do you mind if we send someone out to you? And I was like, if you want to, but I really don't think it's a major issue, but yeah, if you feel the need to. I don't even think I'd gone upstairs to get a pair of trousers. Well, I put a pair of pyjama bottoms on actually. Went and got a pair of pyjama bottoms and just picked up my medication, because at the time I was still on sertraline for like my anxiety and stuff. Come back downstairs and he's already knocking on the door. He was a first responder from down the road, and I felt so guilty because the Victorian market was on, because it was like November time, and he was out with friends and family and got called to me, and I was like, this poor guy who's come out to me and it's going to be a wasted journey, and I feel awful. Anyway, it escalated from him coming to a paramedic, and he hooked me up to his machine and was like, straight away, because at first I think he thought it was a time waster, because I was laughing and joking with the first responder, and he come in and was like, have you called an ambulance before? And I was like, I've not even called this one, to be honest, so no. Hooked me up to his heart monitor and straight away was like, do you want the good news or the bad news? And I was like, well, is there any good news? He's like, no, not really, you go into hospital. And I was like, oh, okay. And basically he called for the actual ambulance to come out, and they put like a cannula in my arm, which I think is quite standard a lot of the time now. And it still hadn't really sunk in. And yeah, I got blue lighted into hospital, and even then I don't think it had really sunk in at that point. It was only for me when I finally got there, I'd got 4 nurses round me at once, that I was like, right, in a hospital you're lucky to get the attention of one person. If I've got 4 around me, this is actually quite scary. And basically when I got into the hospital, my heart was doing, I think it was doing 248 beats per minute, and it had been obviously like that for like the whole 2 hours, because it all happened very fast. I must admit, they were so hot on it, they were so fast from start to finish getting me into that hospital. And basically at 300 your heart starts just pumping oxygen, and basically, yeah, cut a long story short, your heart's not working obviously effectively at that point, and they told me that they'd give me I think I want to pronounce it as adenosine, which basically like you say, it restarts your heart. So they pump you with this like liquid into the cannula. And the lady, as she said she was going to pump it in, she was like, this is going to feel like you're dying. And me being me thought, oh, this means it's going to be really painful. And no, not painful. Definitely feels like you're dying. So I don't know if any of you guys have ever spoke to anyone who's like said that they could feel themselves going, and they've had like a near-death experience. So when they pump it into you, your whole body goes like stiff. It's the heaviest you will ever feel, and you can feel yourself sinking through the mattress, but you're still firm in place, but you definitely feel like you're dropping, and your whole body's just rigid. And I think that's how most people at Spain, when they feel like they're dying, but I imagine because they're stopping your heart for like a brief second or so to reset it. Yeah, so basically like stops your heart to set it back off again. I had to have that injected twice, so I got that feeling twice. And then basically eventually when it sort of settled, they said if it was okay for an hour I could actually go home. And about 55 minutes in, my mum swapped with my dad, because the other thing that made me realise it was quite serious is that my mum wasn't allowed in while they were injecting me with me, so they kept like they'd kick people out. I was only allowed one person, and they'd kick them out for a lot of the stuff they were doing to me. And I think that made me realise it must be quite severe, because they're not usually, you're usually allowed one visitor and they're not usually that fussed, but with this it was like, no, you're getting out while we do this, and they were closing the curtains on her and everything. And I later found out that if you are actually allergic to it, it can obviously take you into cardiac arrest, or worst case paralyse you if you're allergic. So yeah, so I'll get on to that one in a second, because yeah, I will talk about beta blockers a little bit more in a second. Yeah, so anyway, basically about 55 minutes in, my mum went and swapped with my dad, because my dad was here at this point, and my dad's going crazy, going, why the hell did you let her talk her into going to Mackie's, blah blah blah, and all this stuff. And about an hour and 10 minutes in, all of a sudden on the heart monitor it started going again. And this time it was 258, so it had gone even higher. And straight away, same thing again, kicks my dad out. My dad's there going, what are you panicking over, what are you panicking over? I'm like, I'm not, I was just lying here. And yeah, I begged the lady not to give me the stuff again, because it was horrible. And she said basically I've got no choice, because my heart obviously wouldn't withstand it. So I got injected again with this stuff and felt like I was dying. And eventually I had to go for a lot of different tests and stuff, which they'd missed back when I was 11, but I had actually got a heart condition called Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome, WPW for short, and the actual heart condition's not actually that dangerous, but the position I was in that night could have killed me. And the best way to describe it is, you're born with an extra muscle in your heart that has the ability to override the system totally. So I would actually be going about my day-to-day life either missing beats or gaining beats and not really knowing. So it was never me panicking. That's why I was so chilled when it was happening. And basically, when they put a heart monitor back on me again, they did it for 5 days. And apparently at rest, it was usually averaging about 180 just at rest. And I'm feeling nothing, because didn't know any different. And it's ironic, because I used to go on gym equipment in quite nice like gyms, and you know when it measures your heart when you're on the running machine, going, right, okay, you're getting a bit hot, like speedy now with your heart, like time to step off. And quite often mine would go to about, I don't know, 180, 220, and it'd be like, right, your heart's going too fast, it's dangerous, get off. And I always used to think, well, these machines are a bit shit, considering I'm paying so much for this gym membership to go somewhere a bit nicer, and it's still telling me to get off. And obviously, knowing what I know now, it was obviously me that was the problem. But yeah, so, and I wind my mum up about sports day now, because I always hated sports. So I often go to my mum, oh, you made me do sports day and you could have killed me. And then she'll go, oh, pack it in, stop winding me up. But yeah, so basically, in terms of treatment, they did try me on 4 different types of beta blockers, and I was allergic to them all. And some give me dead legs in the day, so when I was walking I'd almost be like almost about to go. But then at night they'd give me restless legs, so I'd go from being dead in the day to tap dancing at night, not being able to sleep. And then they wanted to try me on one last one, and I asked them not to. I was like, look, I'm allergic to all of them, I don't want any more, because I was actually waiting on surgery. And basically, yeah, the last one, I took one, went to bed, woke up, took another one, went to the bathroom, washed my hands, looked up into the mirror, and I was literally like a bullfrog. All my lower face had swollen. I'd got nice lips, I looked like I'd had lip fillers done, but all my lower bottom, I'd got like a right, like, double chin going on. And you know when you think, oh shit, I've just took another beta blocker. So that was just off one beta blocker. Yeah, so I woke up the next day, took another one, and then was like, oh great, I'm going to have a double chin for like the rest of the day now. Yeah, so in the end I did have surgery. I was down as an emergency and I still had to wait like 9 months. And I probably said one of the worst things you could possibly say to a parent on the night that I was rushed in, because I asked my mum at one point, because you're scared, you're not thinking, and I turned around to my mum and said, am I actually ever going to walk out of this hospital? Is this going to kill me? And as a mom, because I could see that she was trying to hold back tears around me even though she'd been crying, to have your daughter then go, am I going to die tonight? And yeah, so I've probably said one of the worst things possible, and it really sort of hit home. And I remember that night thinking, oh my god, I've literally just turned 22 3 days ago. I've done fucking nothing with my life other than work for other people. I haven't been to half the countries I want to go to. Like, what the absolute hell? It's like, it is a reality check, and I hope no one ever has to have that reality check, but it definitely is one. And yeah, so that's basically when, not about 3 months after my heart operation, I actually ended up taking a business on. And I've had my salon for 5.5 years. I actually employ staff as well, so not only am I self-employed, I'm an employer as well. And I took that business on at I took that business on at 22. So I was 21 when I was rushed in. Getting old and forgetting dates now, but yeah, I was 22 when I took my business on, and I think I was still 22 when I took my first member of staff on. And usually at any one point I've probably got about 5 of us working in there, and like I said, I'm 29 this year, so my business is about 5.5 years old now. Oh my god, Elle, you can't blame your mother for giving you blooming autism. Did you get vaccinated? Because apparently that causes autism. But Poppy, who works for me, has got autism, and she winds her mum up terrible because her mum's vegan and she purposely made sure she didn't get any vaccinations. And she winds her mum up terrible, going, ha, you said autism is caused by vaccinations. You didn't get me vaccinated and I still got autism, mum, so it's obviously a load of crap, ain't it? Whereas they're not as bad as my mum finding me after an overdose. You've bounced back so well. Was that a turning point to pursue your own business? Or autism isn't a criteria for early vaccination according to JVRG. Can we just take a second to talk about all these people who reckon if you shove a lettuce leaf up your bum you're going to cure your Crohn's, or if you get a vaccination you're going to get autism, or these people, what is wrong with them? What are they doing? It's like they still think the earth's flat. Like, I don't get it. I know it pisses me off too, by the way. It really stresses me out. It really does. Like, I literally, don't insult my illness. Please don't. Yeah, so anyway, he's definitely I would not have took... All my family are self-employed, and I've always said, I do not want to be self-employed. I see the stress you all go through. I don't want that life, and I don't know, an opportunity to come up and I bloody ran with it, didn't I? And I still question to this day whether I'm sane. If anyone's on here thinking about going self-employed, don't employ staff. They're a massive headache. I love my team, but oh my god, you're like a full-time babysitter as well as a business owner. And if they're on here, they might be watching going, oh, she's running us down. But it is true. I love them, but you are basically a mother to other people. But yeah, so I don't believe that these vaccines cause this, to be honest. I just think they're full of crap. Like, I do think genetics plays into a lot of stuff, like, without being rude. Like, in the 1800s, they're not going to have known what Crohn's or autism or anything is. People would have just died of unknown causes, and that would have been the end of it. And I do think with Crohn's, there's a lot to do with genetically modified, like, food and all, like, with trying to beef up fruit and veg and all these pesticides. I do think there's a lot to do with, like, what's going into our bodies that factors in, and like pollution and all that sort of jazz. But I don't believe that, like I say, you just shove a lettuce leaf up your backside and you'll be fine. So basically, how long did it take you to make the change to becoming a business owner? What motivated you besides your experience with health and working for others? Um, I don't really know. It was just an opportunity sort of come up that I'd have been mad not to have at least had a go at it, and then I don't know, it just sort of fell into place and I just loved it. I think the main thing for me was that I felt like I needed to do something with my life and that I hadn't. And I think it was just that kind of, I've worked for all these people and I don't know, I used to get bored. Like, it was a running joke in my family, Sam doesn't stick at things. So my average in a job was a year and 3 months, and then I'd be like, I've learned everything I need to, and I'm fed up of these people now, and I'd move on, and I'd like work up the ladder, and my CV was like a toilet roll because, and I never fired, just like learned what I needed to and moved on, and I was always wanting to learn more. And I've always been ambitious like that. Like, if you're gonna do a job, do it good. Don't half-arse it. You're either all in or you're not. So the fact that people said that I wouldn't see things through used to annoy me, because when I was in something, I would give it my all. Like, if I worked for someone, I would give them everything. It was known that, oh, if you ask Sam, Sam's a yes person, which is sort of what got me in the mess in the first place, because some of the times I probably should have been saying no. So it was just sort of a case of, I want to do something with my life, I want to achieve it. Yeah, and I think when you think you could die young, it sort of gives you the motivation to think, I don't want to die, and think I've not experienced, I don't know, not so much getting married, but like, you know, like a loving, committed relationship, blah, 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 like work, feeling like you've actually done something. I guess I felt like I just sort of existed and worked for other people up to that point. Um, um, so technically autism causes vaccines. Do you know what? Turtle is someone who plays with us on a Monday night stream sometimes. I call him the other L, but they're both L's. And Big Ben Longboard, who also plays with us on a stream. I can honestly say that it really hacks me off how people with autism can be treated as like being weird or strange or whatever, when they're the most honest people that you will meet, because they just come out with it and there's no mincing of words. And if more people were like that, the world would be a much better place, and rather than them trying to fit in with our society, we should all be trying to fit in with theirs. So it does really hack me off, to be honest. Because at the end of the day, if everyone sort of met in the middle, it makes more sense. But yeah, so basically, going off topic a bit now. So yeah, obviously I had my heart issues. I have got some lovely photos for you all. So this was actually the night I was rushed in. So you don't see this on my Instagram because, yeah, looking rough as hell. And then the photo next to it was while I was waiting on surgery. I couldn't exercise. I was like in such a mess, exhaustion wise, that I had to end up giving up work while I was waiting on surgery, because that night really fucked my body up. It's quite bad. And I was waiting on surgery, and I couldn't work for a bit. I had to give up work, which is probably another reason that I wanted to go and work for myself after all that, because I'd been sat bored at home. And on this photo, hate this photo. I was actually really happy that night. I'd been drinking and stuff, but on this photo is me at my absolute biggest, because I couldn't exercise. And it was one of the main reasons I probably didn't spot my Crohns sooner, because I had just assumed that I was losing the weight that I'd gained. Um, yeah. So anyway, basically, um, yeah. So I reckon I was rushed in the November. I had heart surgery in the July. I'd started working for Tool Station because I was fed up of hairdressers, because there was such bitchy environments, and I wanted to be in a high end salon, but without. I almost wanted to be in a high end salon, but with the old lady sort of friendly atmosphere. And that didn't exist. So I was like, I'm fed up with the industry, I'm leaving. The bosses who I was working for at the time when I was rushed into hospital, by the way, I'm still waiting for the owner to ring me to see if I'm still alive. So not to knock hairdressing as an industry, but as you can see, there's some not very good bosses about. Yeah, so anyway, basically I went and did 3 months of Tool Station, and that basically I was there full, like, as in they wanted me permanently. Um, but they, in fact, they even started asking me about if I wanted to be promoted to team leader, and then this salon come up, and yeah, I just sort of ran with it. And my salon is high-end hair colour, but with that nice old lady friendly atmosphere, and we all have a laugh and a joke, and um, like, we are known for being quite a friendly salon on the whole. Um, and then because of being busy all the time, I was constantly rushing round, never had time to eat, and about 6 months into the salon, I started getting stomach troubles. And the first lot I put down to, I thought I'd got food poisoning, I guess. Obviously, now I know, probably a flare up. Well, no, probably it was a flare up, but yeah, at the time it was so bad, I just assumed it was food poisoning. And in about a week and a half, I probably lost. Usually, in a flare up, in about 2 weeks, I can lose a stone and a half. That's quite normal for me to lose a stone and a half. And yeah, put it down to food poisoning. And then my stomach was never sort of right after that. And I was constantly up and down doctors, IBS, here, go and do a FODMAP, go and do this, check what you're eating. Got to a point where I was literally eating nothing. Like, I'm only just starting to reintroduce foods back in. About 5 years later, I'm only just starting to reintroduce foods in, and I'm absolutely terrified of it. And yeah, they kept just telling me IBS. And then eventually when I was like, but there's no real food sign, I've been keeping diaries for years, I can't figure anything out. And in the end, there was like, you've got a business, you've got a history of depression, it's stress and anxiety related, so it's in your head. And that's not very nice to hear, that it's in your head, because it makes you feel like, oh my god, I'm causing this all the time. And when you have a flare up, you beat yourself up so bad, because it's like, why can't I just control my worrying and what have you? They give me peppermint capsules. What is the one you said the other day, James, that you can buy over the counter? They give me that as well. Then they give me Lopramide to try and bung me up, which I imagine in Crohn's is not actually that great to be bunged up. And yeah, they give me quite a few different stuff to try and. They even tried me on acid reflux meds, which were one of the only things that worked, but they only give me a month's worth of them. And yeah, they even made me go on antidepressants for a little bit, saying that there's a link between that with IBS, because obviously it's more of a mind link, I guess. And yeah, basically, I have actually been, just going back to the mental health point, I've been treatment free off any form of antidepressants consistently now for about, I think, at least 4 years, maybe longer. So it is doable if anyone is on them. I went through quite a lot before I found ones that were suitable. I had quite a few reactions to them, which is funny, but another story altogether. But yeah, they fobbed me off as IBS on more than one occasion, and in the end they finally agreed to send me to the hospital, and I had an MRI done, and it took 11 months to come back. I had it done in the January, and I only got the results in the December, and they told me that everything was fine and that they'd potentially consider looking into it further, and then I never heard anything again. And they said about maybe looking into a dietitian. Never heard anything again off that either. And they've since made me sign up for online at my doctor's, because of how often, obviously, you have to. I've been going lately because of getting diagnosis. And on my online notes, obviously, is all your history of all the documents that ever got sent. And don't understand the jargon of it, so I don't quite know what it says. But it was saying something in my right intestine that sounded almost like a lump or something, but don't quote me, I was trying to figure out what it meant. But someone in Biro has put on there Crohn's ? And that was in 2015, and I've only just been diagnosed like end of last year, basically. I got my diagnosis in time for Christmas. So yeah, so someone back in 2015 wrote on my notes, this girl might have Crohn's, and then they left me. So basically, obviously, after they'd sort of done my MRI and stuff and never got back to me, I did what any normal person would do and think, don't want to pester them anymore, it's my problem to deal with. So, yeah, so basically, like I say, I'm living off, the last year and a half I've just been living off safe food of like carbs, so like dry sort of food like bread, chips, croissants, crisps. And in the end, not November this year, November last year, I was really ill, and at this point people were starting to comment, because to begin with, obviously, like I say, I was on the go all the time, I wasn't eating a lot, I'd had these sort of stomach complaints, but I thought it was IBS. I didn't ever feel like eating, I was feeling sick. We'd had a domestic the Christmas before, because right before the staff do, I said to my mum, I feel too ill, I can't go. And my mum had a major argument with me going, it's like you want to be anorexic or something. You refuse to eat all the time. You're constantly saying you're sick. You feel sick because you're not eating. And you're constantly saying you've got a stomach ache, but you would have a stomach ache because you're not eating. And it's getting too much, and I think you need to like start sorting yourself out, because you're moaning all the time over food and like not wanting to eat and stuff. And she was like, you're making yourself ill and you're just going to skin and bone. And I must say, I feel bad for saying this, but my mum that night was really horrific to me, especially obviously. I think she probably feels guilty knowing what she knows now, but obviously we didn't know that at the time. But there were a lot of the friends and family around me were starting to sort of accuse me of not quite anorexia in the term of looks, but almost like I was purposely doing it to myself, I guess. And it had got to the point where if I went on a day, I'd starve myself all day, and I'd keep some lemon sherbets in the car, and if I felt faint I'd just look on some sugar and carry on. And I think a lot of the time I was living off probably 500 calories a day, even though I was doing like 12-hour days. And they did say to me that the only reason I didn't collapse or pass out was because I was eating carbs that are slow releasing. Had I been eating any other food group, they reckon I'd have been fighting most days in the end from how much running up and down the salon I was doing for what I was eating. And and anyway, basically I thought I'd potentially got a chest infection. I'd come down with this cold and it set all my stomach off. And my mum said, I think you might have a chest infection, you're going to have to go to the doctors. And in the end, she'd been arguing with me for days, and in the end I agreed to go. And basically went in, and it was like the triage sort of person, and she sort of looked at me and was like, the last time you come was 2 years ago and you was 9.5 stone, you're now 7 stone 8. Have you noticed you've been losing weight? And I says, well, yeah, I've noticed. I said, I don't have a set of scales, but I've noticed when I get into bed I usually hold myself round, and I've noticed like I can feel lots of like just bone and skin. So I was like, I definitely know I'm thinner. And I says, a lot of people keep commenting on it. And she was saying, right, okay. And at the time I'd been getting nosebleeds every day for 3 weeks. So, but I was waking up, it wouldn't happen any other time of day. I was just waking up with blood in my nose when I first woke up. And they kept saying, you been coughing blood? And I was like, no. But you're getting it from your nose? I was like, yeah. And she was like, and you've lost lots of weight? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, what's your appetite like? And I was like, I hate food. I really don't want to eat. I was like, I eat to stay alive, but I hate eating. And then she asked me a few other questions about like bruising and stuff like that. Kept going back over, but do you cough up blood? Do you cough up blood? And I'm like, what is this lady getting at? And I was like, no, I'm not coughing up blood. Anyway, basically she's like, I really need you to see the senior doctor before you even leave. And I was like, that's fine. He got me seen quite quick, and he was like, why haven't you been coming? You was meant to have a follow-up. And I was like, no one ever got back to me. And if I'm honest, I got sort of sick of saying the same thing over and over. And yeah, anyway, basically same thing again, went over the same questions and then kept going, but you're not coughing up blood. I'm like, how many times? I'm not coughing up blood. And when I come out, he's like, I'm going to prescribe you with some cream first for your nose, but we do need to send you back off to gastro to have a look, because he's like, what you losing weight wise isn't normal. He's like, you've lost 20% body mass since we've last seen you. Anyway, basically, oh, and he hinted at anorexia as well, and I was like, look, I've not long moved out, I don't even have a full-blown mirror still, and I don't have a set of scales, so obviously I ain't that bothered how I look, because I ain't even checking myself in a mirror before I leave for work. So anyway, basically, he prescribed me with some cream, and when I went to the pharmacy to pick it up, I was stupid enough to Google blood in nose, coughing blood, why do they keep asking me why I'm coughing blood, and sort of wish I didn't do it, because everything that come up on my screen was leukemia, 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 and I was like, oh, this is what they're testing me for. And my granddad had leukemia when he was alive, but it was dormant, so he did have it, but it never triggered. So straight away I'm like, oh, this isn't my family. And then when you look down the symptoms, it's not like, you know how a lot of the time when you Google symptoms, which I know is the worst thing to do, but it's usually stuff like headache, feeling sick, you know, like generic symptoms. Leukemia is like basically bloody nose, coughing blood, bruises covered on legs, which mine are, which I think a lot of people who have Crohn's have that, but covered in bruises, constantly anemic, prolonged periods, and like as I was going down this list, I think besides 2 on the list, I'd got them all. I'd even had what is like nicknamed leukemia rash, which I found out since that it can happen in anemia. When your anemia gets quite bad, you'll get like this weird purple spotting on your skin. I'd actually had that in the September and ignored it, and it just gone away. So I'd even had this leukemia rash and everything, and obviously it's Christmas, like November, Christmas time, and I think for 10 days I had to go to work pretending to be happy, knowing I was basically being tested for cancer, which is not a nice thing. Thankfully it did come back that it was just like, I do have problems with my nose in the winter with the central heating. It's like sinus problems, so thankfully it's unrelated. But yeah, so the first thing I was actually tested for was leukemia, and then from there I finally got, but at the time I was with someone as well, which was obviously burst into tears on the phone to them, which is probably the worst thing I could have done, because we hadn't really been together that long, so it's a lot for someone else to take in, to think the person you see is like being tested for stuff like that. Anyway, basically, finally got a colonoscopy in February. Pill cam kept getting cancelled because of COVID. They found a single ulcer in my large intestine and then sent me a letter saying, we think your small intestine is going to be full of ulcers, but we need to wait on this pill cam. And then left me to wait for months and months and months because of COVID, and my mental health just spiralled out of control, because it was the whole not know. As someone who's anxious, not knowing is like torture, because you need to know everything all of the time, and you're reassurance seeking everything because you need to feel comfortable that you sort of feel like you've got all bases covered. And that's when my mental health took a spiral again, and I was like, I'm not going back on antidepressants, it's not happening. Signed myself up for counselling again, and I've even gone and done a level 2 counselling course online as well. So because I was like, not only am I going to like sort myself out, I'm going to understand it better so I can always counsel myself in future, and if any friends are struggling I'll be better to deal with them, especially with lockdown and COVID. It's obvious that more and more people are going to need like mental health services after this. I think it's fair to say it's a very difficult time for everyone. And then eventually I finally got diagnosed, and it sounds horrible to actually, no one would want to wish Crohn's on themselves, but it was actually almost a relief to go, oh my god, I wasn't going crazy all this time. It was like I've beat myself up so bad about being ill, and within reason, Crohn's is very much out of your control. If you're going to be bad, you're going to be bad, there's nothing you can do about it. But yeah, so basically, looking back, when I look at a lot of the symptoms, it was a bit stupid not to have known, because of obviously when I spoke to other people, even if I was, like eventually when I had a dietitian, I was trying to eat to gain weight, and I still wasn't putting weight on. It took me just over a year to put a stone on, and that's with drinking 40 juice and stuff like that. And yeah, not putting weight on. Without being vulgar to any women here who are on here, if they have got Crohn's or colitis, I don't know about you, but your time of the month, I'm like be on for extra days and stuff like that. Always suffering with anemia. Without being vulgar, I can't remember the last time I've done a brain poo. Been years, so if you do a brain one, you're very lucky because I don't. Mine's like yellow baby poo all of the time. So, in fact, I'm not convinced that there might not be something else going on there. And even now, I'm just waiting to find out if I'm in remission. So, I can't pronounce it, so I bought them here. So, these are the steroids I was on. If anyone wants to pronounce them, feel free. They're Encore ones, but yeah, basically they were the steroids I was on to try and get myself into remission for a bit. I was on them for 8 weeks. And I'm on these permanently. In fact, I'm trying to get off them now at the minute. They're Lansoprazole. I did try to come off them for a bit, but if anything, I think I need a stronger dose. I do think these might be a lifetime thing for me. I don't know about anyone else on here, but yeah, my acid reflux is like chronic, like so bad. In terms of just going from like back to my heart, so this was when I was at my fattest. This was at my thinnest. So though that picture doesn't look that bad, but those trousers there are only a size 12. So to give people context, and I've been brave enough to put my rib, which is, I know we're running out of time, but this is my rib. This is costochondritis and TZ syndrome. TZ syndrome is basically when it shows swelling, which obviously mine does, but they still usually class it as costochondritis. It's also slip ribs as well. So basically, from the back of your spine, where they sit in the socket, they slip down from the spine. Very painful. They've said 50-50 whether Crohn's has caused this. I've had it about a year and a half now. Most people, it goes away like after a couple of months. In some cases, it's rare, it can last a year, and then it can actually happen for life, which I've known 2 other people that have got it, and theirs is for life. And if I'm honest, when I've googled pictures of what it looks like, I'm not saying this, so my Crohn's is mild, so I'm very much a mild case of Crohn's. And even my heart, I had surgery for it, so as far as I'm concerned, I'm doing really well. This, however, I am probably quite a rare severe case. So I did want to just put it out there. I get quite embarrassed about the way this looks. I'm not going to lie. This is like, to have this on the screen for everyone's quite difficult. Of all the things that I have like to go through, I hate the way this one looks the most. But yeah, so basically so far I've had steroid injections in it. They eased it for a couple of weeks. They're meant to last at least 3 weeks. It probably only eased for about 2 weeks, and it's sort of come back again. I've had physio because there's like slightly below that they started to slip as well there, and they've managed to sort of slot those back in. But when I'm doing my job, it's very painful, and that mixed with flare ups, because without being rude, when you go into the toilet, you are actually making your ribs slip further. Because without being vulgar, obviously sometimes you might strain, and obviously it puts stress on them. Like I say, 50-50 whether it's caused through Crohn's, because Crohn's is known to cause joint problems, but they don't know for sure, and I'll never find out, and it is what it is. I've just got to live with it. But when I'm blow drying and doing my job, it's very, very painful. And between the being waiting on the Crohn's and all the Crohn's symptoms and the Crohn's pains, which, although I'm a mild case, I cannot stress to people who don't have it how painful it can be at times. And I'm a mild case, so anyone who's on here who is a more severe or moderate case, my hat is totally off to you, because it's so effing painful at times. It's so like, literally, you're going about your life day to day, and it just slaps you in the face and literally takes everything from you. And that, like I say, that is literally just on a mild case. So to people who are severe, fair play to you every day fighting on, because people do not give us enough credit for the stuff that we have to actually go through. And like I say, with my pain in my ribs on top of it, because my rib pain, if I tell you it's uncomfortable, what I actually mean is it's painful, and at times it's like it is excruciating. And I like to think I'm not a baby, but it is excruciating at its worst. And obviously, what you can see in that photo doesn't look that bad, but that's actually the ribs not sitting in the location properly, and on the end where it looks almost like a ball is actually all the cartilage inflammation. And yeah, so that is like one of those. But also, I don't know if anyone else suffers with it, and I'm really sorry because you're gonna get my feet pictures twice. So this is Raynaud's as well. So you've got primary and secondary, which is also in secondary it's autoimmune, I think it is. This one's the one that's just no reason, but it's quite common in females where the blood vessels swell. So basically, you'll get like my mum noticed this. She was like, "Your feet are grey," and I was like, "No, they're not." And she's like, "Yeah, they are. They're grey." So that photo of my feet, which I'm really sorry, they are a very skanky photo of them. That was actually took as a photo for the doctor the first day that we noticed it happening. So, and then I didn't really ever get it in my hands until this winter, and it's even spread up my arms. And then when it gets warm again, it goes all red and hot, and like it looks almost greasy because it's almost like it blisters a little bit. So all winter I have to go through that as well. So your feet go ice cold because the circulation's not getting round, and then obviously when they warm up, they go really painful and red and like puffy. And then the one of my knuckles clenches because the blood vessels aren't getting round it properly. Um, it's not painful unless it's like when the blood starts to go back round, it can be a bit painful. It's just, or when it's like excruciating cold, it's painful. But on the whole, it's mainly just annoying and a little bit embarrassing because no one really wants to see you like your skanky black grey feet and your purple hands. But yeah, so that's something else that I don't know if that anyone else suffers with it. But I wanted to basically put these photos on there if anyone's here going me too or whatever. It's not for sympathy or anything like that. It's just so if anyone is here, it's like don't worry, you're not alone. Um, but yeah, so basically, I just thought I'd put those photos on to share a few of you. But while I was waiting on diagnosis, I can't tell you how horrible it is not knowing and how severe it's going to be. Like, am I going to need a bag? Am I going to need this? Am I going to need surgery? Am I going to need that? Will it always be? Because there'd come a point where I didn't have any faith in them to sort me out. Because it sounds harsh. And I have a love-hate relationship with the NHS because some of the stuff they do is so fucking fantastic. It's unreal. But some of it, and this is not aimed at the staff, this is aimed at people higher up because they're just doing their job and they're not paid enough for what they have to put up with. The people higher up making the decisions know full well that we need far more staff on for a start, let alone anything else. That's where a lot of the neglect comes into, is because these people are so overrun with what they're doing that mistakes happen because at the end of the day they're not robots, they're human beings. So this is definitely not a dig at anyone that's on the floor at all. But because I'd almost died through a misdiagnosis years ago, and the fact that they'd almost potentially spotted Crohn's already and then ignored me for years again, I honestly thought this would be my life. I honestly didn't think they would actually fix me. And then, like I say, you start to think, will I ever get better? Will they ever treat me? And if they do, how much of my intestines will be left by the time they actually realise what's going on? And because of having quite an anxious like sort of tendency, you obviously overthinking stuff. And it got to the point where with a cold, you know that when you go to bed, you're going to wake up eventually feeling better if you rest enough. Anyone who's on here who's got IBD knows in a flare you go to bed, you're waking up as shit as when you went to bed. That's if you're even lucky to sleep. And it was almost like I was having to decide, do I lie on my left side and have rib pain but keep the acid in my stomach? Or do I lie on my right side and have acid reflux bad but get less rib pain at night? And and like the sort of choices you were having to make, because IBD does rob you of, like, you know, like your friends going hanging out, because you can't do social interactions in terms of food or drink. That goes out the window. Obviously with COVID on top, that doesn't help, but obviously if anyone was diagnosed before COVID, we have to almost accommodate. Like, I know obviously with autism is very different, but with people who are autistic, they're having to fit into a society that really the society should be sort of adapting for them, and us as IBD sufferers, like, are having to accommodate the fact that our friends want to go out for food and drink, and if we want to go out and say, oh, I'm really sorry but I can't eat, but I will come out to try and make the effort, it's like, well, if you're not eating, I'm not eating. And it's like, well, you can't do that to me, because if I eat, I'm going to be in the toilet for potentially how long and stuff. And I think the stream sort of come about because the amount of emotions I've sort of felt the past year and a half got to the point where I didn't want to be here again, apart from I'd been through it once, and the first time I had way less to complain about, but felt harder because it was the first time. Whereas this time I had far more going against me, because I got a lot of stuff going on. I was getting betrayed by a staff member at the time, going behind my back doing. There's a lot of other work stuff going on at the time. I had a relationship fall apart because of my flare-ups as well. It was sort of constantly one thing after another, plus the pain off my rib, plus all my flare-up sort of symptoms, and I never fully come out of my flare-up. I sort of had 2-3 weeks of hell, 3 months where I'd probably have one day out of the month where I'd be okay, and then a year and a half of just safe food. It didn't really ever, there was never an end to it, and it was always something after another. And there was times when I was like, I don't think I've got the strength to keep doing this. Like, I literally don't think I've got the strength to keep going. And during the first lockdown, I started gaming with one of my friends, Michael, online, and mentally we sort of kept each other going, talking most nights. And then Elle, who joins me on the Monday nights, got in touch with me and was like, oh, are you gaming and stuff? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, oh, you should game with us. There's certain games that are cross-play. And I game with these guys that I stream on a Monday with 5 to 7 nights a week. And I've made a pact that even now that I've gone back to work, and even when I've worked during, like, I don't know, lockdown, back at work, I've made sure I've carried on gaming, because the mental sort of thing of having that social aspect of finally I can do something in the comfort of my own home, or I've got my hot water bottle if I don't feel great or my hands are cold. I don't have to drink, I don't have to eat, I'm right by a toilet if I need one. I'm gaming with people who don't give a flying monkeys what's wrong with me. They treat me like really good. When I say they treat me good, they wind me up terrible, and they get called all sorts, and they drive me mad, and I'll rant to them sometimes, but they literally do not give a fuck if I go to the toilet 100 times a day, as long as they know that I'm okay. And not everyone is actually like that. I'm sure a few of you've had probably bad experiences as well. But yeah, so basically, that's how I started getting back. I've always been a gamer, but not as frequent as an adult as I am now. And everyone kept joking about me setting up a stream, and was like, oh, no one wants to see that, I'm a shit gamer. I'm like, if I'm average at best, I'm pretty shit, to be honest. But I just thought, you know what, there's got to be other people out here that was like struggling with diagnosis or struggling to get through. And I don't know about you guys, but a lot of the time when you go to the doctors, they don't really know. I tend to find the best advice is coming from those that live with it, because there's not that much known about it, that we've almost learnt how to deal with our own bodies far more than what they can sort of give you advice. Like, I've learned far more knowledge from just chatting on these streams or communicating with people on social media who have the illness. Because although the doctor can be really structured and go, right, you're going to do this because of this, and you're going to take this because of that. Like, Joe was the one who even pointed out my bruising on my legs is because of my Crohn's and anemia. And like, telling me what sort of supplements might be good, and I've learnt far more from actually talking to people with it, which I think is why it's so important that we do this, because it means that people are interacting with each other. Even like tonight, I've got a few of you on here who've got autism, and you're going back and forth between you. So it's about almost going like, I don't know, I think certain illnesses or health issues or whatever are seen as really taboo, especially toilet habits. And it's almost like, well, everyone goes, so why are we still pushing about it? Like, all of a sudden it's okay to be transgender, and doesn't matter what skin colour you are, and everyone's fighting for rights on something, which is good, it's how it should be. Yet we're meant to be forgotten about because it's bells, and it's like, so everyone goes, even the Queen goes to the loo, doesn't she? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, so that was it just sort of started as like, let's try it, see if people like it, and then I think thanks to Crohns and Colitis UK, they shared 2 of my stories 2 days in a row, so in a 48-hour period, and I got about 50 followers. So I still very much got a very low following, but I get usually at least 1 or 2 messages a day off strangers asking me something, to be fair. So I do get a lot of messages off people now with IBD, and it's so nice to think that people even care about what I'm doing, I guess, because I honestly thought I'd get laughed at. And I honestly thought tonight I'd be talking to like 0 viewers sort of sign, and it's currently saying there's 12 of you that's been consistently watching for quite a while. Which is to go through some of the messages. For someone who has experienced so much, you're an inspiration. Don't be ashamed of your photos. PS cool slippers. Everyone always comments on my yellow fluffy slippers. And you're a trooper. Oh, thanks, Dan. I'm glad you've turned up. But yeah, I don't really want to waffle on anymore, because I could keep going for the rest of the evening. But it's just sort of give you an insight into the health, to where I'm up to in terms of treatment and what I've been through and why I've done the stream and my name behind the stream. I could go on about like everything, like relationships a lot, and give you my whole life story and bore the shit out of you, but obviously we've got to wrap it up somehow. But before I finish, is there any questions you guys want to sort of ask me while I'm on the stream? If you obviously want to ask me anything, please feel free to send it through. I did have a message come through on Insta last night. I'm just going to pull it up just in case any of you guys want to send anything. Where is it? Right. I've been asked, is any of my IBD sufferers still present? Because if not, I'm going to try and find someone who can answer this question. Have you ever had an iron infusion for Crohn's? And if so, what was it like? If anyone's had that, can you please let me know? I'm asking for Laura, who's on the stream tonight as well. So, yeah, if anyone does have an answer to that one. Oh, okay, yeah, Buscopan. That's only just come through, you know, on my chat. Yeah, I was given Buscopan as well. Yes, okay, James, can you please type in the chat for Laura, just tell her what it was like to have these iron infusions, please. Because I promised her I'd find someone who knew. And if not, I'll have to go and put it on my Insta. So if you can give us any feedback on iron infusions, I'd really appreciate it. But yeah, I get quite a lot of people coming through now on a daily basis saying, I like what you're doing, or can you find the answer for this, or can you do this, or I'd love to stream with you, or blah, blah, blah. And it's so nice that people even care, because like I say, I honestly didn't think anyone would be bothered. And also, I know you guys will have seen this read about a lot on Insta, but if you haven't already, Crohn's and Colitis as well, definitely go and get your radar key and your can't wait card. Thankfully I've never needed it, but it makes me feel better that I've got it. So if you live in the UK, it'll give you access to all the public toilets. Sorry, I've been talking for so long, I need a drink. James has put in the chat in terms of the iron infusions. Absolutely fine, just make your mouth taste like metal, but it's not really an issue. It's quite common and it's used in multiple illnesses. Gives you a boost if anything, really. So if Laura, you're still here, that message is for you. If not, I am just going to be a bit naughty while I'm talking to you guys and just take a photo of it so I can send it her, if that's okay. Just because later on sometimes my chat has a tendency to play up. Oh, and also in terms of treatment, now I've finished my steroids, they're actually going to try and keep me treatment free for a bit, but they've already given me this massive leaflet on the treatment I will be going on to. Basically, well, they basically said if and when you next flare, in other words, basically when you flare, because you will at some point, that'll be the meds I'll be going on to, and I've had to read through it basically because eventually I have to give my consent. So yeah, so at least now I sort of feel a lot better about knowing I'm going to be a bit more under control with it. And it's a massive weight off my shoulders, and then talking to people who've got bags and things like that, although no one obviously wants it to happen, hearing such positive things about it has made me sort of realise, you know what, as long as I'm living and I'm happy, I don't really give a flying monkeys what they've got to do, as long as I'm healthy and I'm happy and everything. This mental health attitude, by the way, does not come overnight, and as someone who does obviously have anxiety lifelong, I can honestly say it is effort. But you've got to treat it like, if you've got a cold, you'll go and get a load of fluid down you. You'll, I don't know, go and get some Lucozade, get some pain meds, get some sinus stuff snorted up your nose, get some Vic on your chest. You'll do a bit of everything to get rid of the cold. Sorry. But with mental health, you go, oh, I just ignore it for a bit and it'll go away. Just ignore it for a bit and it'll go away. And then eventually it's like, right, you've ignored it for so long. What was probably this to fix is now this. For the sake of just going and sorting yourself out. So, because it's like a taboo subject, but like you've literally snowballed and made it so much worse. Because you've tried to ignore it, hoping it'll go away, and it isn't going away because you wouldn't ignore your cold. So why are you ignoring your mental health? So yeah, like I said earlier, constantly keep checking in with yourself mentally at least once a week to where you're at. I'll happily always take messages off people if you're struggling. The only thing I will say, if you're struggling, I am a cutthroat person that I will probably give you, what's the word? I don't mince my words, I'm just going to come out with it. So if I think that you're not helping yourself, I'm going to tell you. I will happily still be like nice and supportive and listen and whatever, because sometimes all you need to do is just rant. But if you're not listening or taking the hard truths, I do find it a little bit difficult, because I'm a bit more of a logical person. I can, considering I'm quite an emotional person, I can be very logical, like this is what I need to do, this is how I need to make myself feel better, and I'll almost go through a checklist and I'll keep checking in with myself. And you do have to be very strong-willed with yourself and be like, this isn't beating me, I'm beating it. Yes, it is called tough love. How dare you call me Samantha? We've had these words, Robert. Yeah, tell them it's not about being rude, it's just about sometimes I do think with mental health people can pussyfoot around you, and sometimes you do need to be told. Like one of my closest friends the other night is giving me a bit of home truths that I didn't want to hear, but I did need to hear, because at the minute I'm sat like a little hermit in my shell, safe at home, not wanting to like I don't know. That's a story for another day. But yeah, my mate gave me my home truths. But yeah, I'm going to try and wrap this up because I've been going for an extra 20 minutes other than what I usually do. But if anyone does have any questions other than ones that, if they put anything in the stream there, I will answer. If not, if you ever want to send me a message, my Instagram's on here. I will just pull it up. I'm now on YouTube as well. In fact, James, you're on my YouTube now. Your video is up on there. But there's my Instagram and my YouTube. They are actually on there as well. Robert, if you have a question, please ask it now or forever hold your peace. Yeah, so they're on there. If ever you need anyone, please come and talk to me. I'll be here every Wednesday interviewing people. Hopefully next week I will have a whole host of people here. I'm just waiting to confirm it. So we'll go from having one person to like a ton of people. We are trying to get to 100 and then maybe we'll look at doing some sort of giveaway or some special perk once we get to a certain number to try and encourage you all. You can also subscribe now as well, and if you want to receive notifications every time I go live, you can actually turn that on so you don't miss a stream. They're on Twitch for up to 14 days and then eventually they're on YouTube thereafter. I have managed to get the chat with James last week with the chat still in it. But some of them the chat does go missing from the Twitch one, so the Twitch one's always better to watch because you're watching the chat log go in as well, especially when it's so interactive. But yeah, the YouTube ones will always be there, so you can always go and watch them at a later date. And I can't just stop my stream halfway through to go and look at my messages. I always ignore messages until the end. I like to be interactive with everyone and then I go and check after, so I will check your logo and get back to you in a bit. This is a fellow streamer as well, by the way. If any of you want to watch someone play COD who's absolutely amazing at it, this is the guy to go and follow, who's commenting at the minute, winding me up, calling me Samantha. If you want to watch some hardcore COD zombies, this is the person to go and watch. I was watching the other day and it's like, wow, it's amazing. So yeah, so he's the guy to follow if you want anything like that. Not going to promote you if you keep calling me Samantha though. So yeah. Thank you so much guys for watching, especially because it's been going on for so long. I really do appreciate it, and yeah, like I say, if you need anything let me know. If you haven't already, please follow me, and if not, I'll see you all. I'll be streaming next Monday with games and then Wednesday again, hopefully with a load of people on IBD. Thank you guys, take care, bye.